The Algarve region of Portugal is a mix of sun, sea, incredible food, and a fascinating history. We went from hiking and paddling to salt marshes and sea caves, and on to museums and fine dining, all in a period of 4 days. So let's dive into Faro in the amazing Algarve region of Portugal. We have entered the Algarve region.
Benvenuto in Algarve.
Benvenuto a Portugal.
Benvenuto Portugal.
At the end of last summer, we drove from Toulouse, France, through Spain, which had been blasted by wildfires. The 2022 drought had touched much of Europe, and we weren't sure what we would find in Portugal. We stayed in Faro, the capital of the region, and spent 4 days touring the city, nearby countrysides, and towns. We were surprised to find that unlike the areas of Spain we had driven through, or even southern France, which was parched and dry when we left, the Algarve was lush and wild. It didn't take us long to realize one thing about the Algarve region. If you're lucky enough to go there, you will not want to leave. We certainly didn't. We started our adventure in the seaside town of Fuseta, where my husband took a wingfoil lesson, while I enjoyed a day off from my other YouTube channel, Now Gardening, and relaxed with one of my favorite books. One older man who didn't speak a word of English was so patient and friendly that we ended up coming back later that week and renting a kayak from him.
I didn't hear you.
That evening, back in Faro, we celebrated our arrival in Portugal with a dinner at a terrace restaurant. The next morning, we walked around Faro to check out the old city. Did you know that Faro was once a Roman settlement called Osonoba? I didn't either, but Faro's roots actually go all the way back to Roman times, and you can see ancient mosaics like this one and learn about the history and more in the Municipal Museum of Faro. For example, the Moors from North Africa ruled this area for 500 years, and the influence can be seen in the remnants of Arabic tiles, the wall they built to fortify the city, and even the name of Algarve, which was derived from the Arabic Algarve, meaning the west. After we finished exploring the old city, we drove out to the Loulé Boardwalk. The Loulé Boardwalk connects the Garau beach with the Faro beach and is a wooden pathway that is wheelchair and stroller accessible. The 4.7-kilometer walkway takes you along a protected lagoon system where you can observe the wildlife and majestic views of the marshland. After we had worked up a sweat, we stopped in the Anko Beach restaurant to eat. Much to our surprise, this was clearly a place locals go, and most people were well-dressed and in family groups out for a sophisticated lunch. That said, no one minded that we arrived from our trek in shorts and tennis shoes, and the servers were warm and welcoming. Which brings me to one of our favorite topics, food.
Something from the sea. It's a surprise from the sea.
The Algarve region spoiled us. If you like fish or seafood, you will be in heaven here. Be sure to try the cataplana, a delicious seafood stew. Our favorite restaurants visited were the Alameda in Faro and the Anko Beach Club on the Loulé Trail. The service was amazing and the meals were spot on if you're a foodie. The next day we set out early to hike a famous area called the Seven Hanging Valleys. Well, it's day number 4. Don't know, but it's our next to last day, and we are hiking the 7 valleys. You can see the beaches down there. We'd like to do some of these cave tours. A little bit too crowded, I think, right now. The sun was tiring because we were completely exposed, but we hiked about 2 hours before stopping at the Praia de Cavallo. Our plan was to have lunch at a local restaurant, but we ran into a paddleboard guide instead and signed up for a paddleboard tour of the sea caves. Since our tour was about to leave, we ate a quick lunch at a food truck and donned our swimsuits for the adventure. And what an adventure it was! The ocean was rough because there were motorized tour boats everywhere creating big waves. But we stayed on our boards and made it through a few caves, including the famous Benagil, or Benagil. Have you ever seen the photos that look like this? Well, the real experience was much different. People without guides were capsizing in kayaks due to the waves, and our guide, along with my husband, ended up helping them to shore. And once ashore, this was the real experience. All in all, we had a great time though, and got a fantastic workout too. After we paddled back, we dropped off our boards and hiked the Seven Hanging Valley Trail back to our car.
This is the life, huh? In Portugal, of all places.
We've hiked, we've rode, we've paddleboarded, we've had really bad food. So,
Good food.
did you eat my food?
It's a picnic. A little tired.
We were exhausted, but it was an amazing day and we would do it again.
Let's talk after the...
On our last day, we decided to take it easy. We went back to Fuseta, rented a kayak for a peaceful outing, including a stop on a little island, and later a landing on a beach that turned out to be the backside of a stretch of oceanfront beach.
Right in this thing here. Oh, nice. Hold on, let me zoom in on it.
That's pretty big. On our way back to Faro, we took a wrong turn and ended up in the salt pans. It might be the coolest wrong turn we've ever taken. We were completely baffled by the different colored, rectangular patches of salt-crusted water everywhere. The area was completely deserted as we drove along following the GPS down single-lane roads trying to get back to where we had started. Later we discovered that what we were witnessing was the ancient practice of harvesting sea salt that is still alive in the Algarve today. Depending on the minerals present, the salt pans take on different colors, which can range from a blinding white that looks like snow to a rich red. It was a fascinating discovery. The next morning, coffee in hand, we left Faro to catch the ferry that connects Spain to Morocco. But that adventure will have to wait for another time, folks, because this wraps up our whirlwind tour of Faro and the Algarve region.
Back, baby. She's back. Get her some protein. Calamares.